Quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals meaning what, Alex? What's a quadrilateral?
Anything that has four sides.
Yeah, four sides. And I would say, I suppose we should start by this. There are things that classify as a bunch of things. First of all, a parallelogram. What is a parallelogram? What specifically is a parallelogram? And that's the thing in math. You have to use the specific definitions there. If you just had to guess based on the name there, parallelogram is, Ryan?
Has parallel sides.
Yeah, two sets of parallel sides. Okay, usually the garden variety parallelogram looks like this. But if you go by its strictest definition, what other things are also parallelograms? Okay, Renee?
Squares.
Yeah, a square is a parallelogram. It's a parallelogram with what? Suppose we might as well put it down there. What is the exact definition of a square? It is a parallelogram, but a certain type of parallelogram. A parallelogram with, Maggie Dervis?
All equal sides.
All equal sides. But not only all equal sides, but all equal or all right angles. Parallelogram with all equal sides, all right angles. Because why can't I stop with all equal sides? Because if I did, I would have this shape, or I could get this shape, which is definitely not a square. This shape is called a rhombus. By the way, let's put these little tick marks in here because they stand for all equal sides. This little guy here, which is a rhombus, is a parallelogram with four equal sides. But they're not necessarily. Is a square a rhombus? Yes or no? Does a square have four equal sides? Yes, it is. All squares are rhombuses, but not all rhombuses are squares.
What about parallel, or not parallelograms, rectangles?
All rectangles are parallelograms. Yeah, let's get the exact definition of that. What is the specific definition of a rectangle? It definitely is a parallelogram, but the only thing it has to, whatever it has to meet, it's a parallelogram with, anybody? Taylor?
4 right angles.
Yeah, 4 right angles. That's the only thing something has to be a rectangle. It has to have 4 right angles. So, are all squares rectangles? Do all squares have to have 4 right angles? Yes. Are all rectangles squares? Which would mean, do all rectangles have to have 4 equal sides? No. So you gotta watch because one fits one doesn't fit the other. Am I missing another one that fits in the parallelogram side of things? So far for parallelograms we have rhombuses, we have rectangles, we have squares. By the way, the book kind of goes on to show that kind of like this. You've done Venn diagrams before? Sure, why not? Let's say this great big circle stands for all parallelograms. And inside all those parallelograms, I know that this circle here stands for all squares, right? Sure, why not? if I were to show what rectangles would be, what circle would I draw for rectangles? Or what would I draw for a circle that would contain rectangles? What would I do for rectangles? Logan? It would be in parallelograms, but how does it relate to the squares? What would you do with squares? Would it not touch the squares? Would I draw this and say this is rectangles, which would mean square? There's no squares that are rectangles? Are all squares rectangles?
Yes.
So what would my rectangle circle have to be? Huh? A Venn diagram. My rectangle circle would have to completely surround the square, right? Because all squares are, or all rectangles are parallelograms, and all squares are rectangles, right? Correct? Would that be correct? Is there a square that's not a rectangle? No. So they'd have to all fall inside it. What about, could I show rhombuses there? How could I show rhombuses, which are all, is a square a rhombus?
Yes.
Yes. But is a square a rectangle, or is a rhombus, are all rhombuses rectangles? So you couldn't really do it with this, because if you put a rhombus in here, that would say it's also an all square, boom, boom, boom. It'd actually have to be what? How would I do that? I think I drew my rectangle squares a little too big. Could a rhombus be a rectangle? Sure it could. Right? You'd have to, not all squares are rhombuses. Yeah, all squares are rhombuses, right? So the rhombus would have to be completely connected inside the square. Every square, the rhombus would have to go completely engulf the squares, but it can't completely be in rectangles because there's some rectangles that aren't. They have to come around the outside here. So it gets a little, I probably should have done a little bit. 6 to 1 half doesn't look that. Now, what about this? Let's move on to something here. What about, what if something says it's an isosceles? Well, wait. We have to show the ones that are not. What are not parallelograms? That are quadrilaterals. So in other words, give me some sort of a quadrilateral that doesn't have parallel sides. Circle's not a polygon. Parallelograms have to have 4 sides. 4-sided shapes that are not parallel to each other, not all parallel to each other. A trapezoid, which looks like this. What is the definition of a trapezoid? A trapezoid has exactly 1 set of parallel sides. Boom. Another one? Logan? A what? I don't think a diamond is actually classified as a shape. I don't think the book actually calls it a diamond. They call it a kite, where you have something that looks like this. This is a kite, they call it. They don't call it necessarily a diamond. And if it looked like this, which we already have that shape, which is a, yeah, this is a rhombus. So they don't necessarily go with a diamond there. They do a kite that has, you know, these 2 are the same length, and then these 2 are the same length, and these would probably, I don't even know if those are parallel, are they? Anybody? No, I don't think they are. I think this is a special type of, if it's a 4-sided shape and there's no parallel sides, something that looks kind of like this, jot this down because you don't hear this very often. It's a trapezium. A trapezium. I'm sure it's Latin for something, but it has no parallel sides. And I'm going to write it down as soon as it lets me. No parallel sides. So I think a kite would fall under the trapezium thing, a special kite type of trapezium. Otherwise, they don't give us any other ones. Because I know one that had something really exciting here. Can I see any other ones? Alright, good. Now take out a blank piece of paper. If we were just so kind, those two.